Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our June 27th board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I need to get an approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. We're going to move on to the welcome and the moment of reflection, and that will be Ms. Crosby for tonight.
Tonight, I would like to reflect on, just take a few minutes to reflect on the years that we've had with Mr. Pye. Mr. Pye has been our leader for many, many years. I hate to keep repeating those years, Mr. Pye, but you are a reflection. But we would just like to thank him and let him know that, we appreciate all that he's done and that he's gone beyond and above and beyond all the things that have been required of him. And we appreciate that. And of course, we don't expect anybody to follow with this many years, but, we take it day by day anymore, the way it goes. But Mr. Pye, we do thank you. We appreciate you. And I'd like to also say that we appreciate the school board because we work hard and we make every effort we can do, and hope we have supported you diligently, Mr. Pye. And thank all of y'all for coming and being a part. If we stand for the pledge.
Next on our agenda is our school highlights. Mr. Kenwright.
Hello. Hi. All right. Well, good evening, Board of Trustees. As always, I bring good news. I would like to start with a distinguished track and field athlete. If I could have Josh Baruti from Ashley Ridge High School come up. All right. As you may know, he placed first in the 5A pole vault through the South Carolina High School League. He reached a height of 15 feet 6 inches, which set a school record. And and just for perspective, I was curious, and so I Googled it. He could pole vault over some adult giraffes if he really wanted to. He will be going to Columbia College for track and swim. And I would like to highlight his father, who is here with us this evening. Congrats, Josh. If you could stand right there. Oh, and actually, it's I believe our stats is up next. So that's the next one. Sorry. I would like to highlight some great stats from our class of 2022. As you can see on the screen, we've highlighted several different aspects of the class that we wanted to bring your attention to. With more than 1,600 graduates. The scholarship amount totaled more than $44 million. And we will also have this information online in case you want to find it later. But all right. And then for our final recognition, I would like to invite our team from Joseph R. Pye Elementary School up here and some representatives from MUSC. All right. So earlier, toward the end of the school year, we recognized Pye Elementary. They earned the Wellness Award Grand Prize for the district from the MUSC Boeing Center for Children's Wellness. The center's school-based wellness initiative seeks to improve nutrition and increase physical activity for students and staff through participation in the school wellness checklist. This initiative includes evidence-based strategies and resources to assist schools in making the policy, systems, and environmental changes in order to build and sustain a culture of wellness. Their health and wellness team received the award, which included $1,750 for the school wellness program, a trophy, and a healthy breakfast for school staff. Representing the school, we have Miss Erin McWhorter and Miss Tracy Taylor. And from MUSC, we have Lindsay O'Neill and Sarah Powinski. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, next on the agenda is our public comments on agenda items, and I have a few of those. We are going to begin with Kelly Bates.
Hello again. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to come up and comment in favor of the removal for policy ADD because I know that is up for removal, and I've been advocating for that for a while, so that I approve of. I also wanted to follow up on the Greenville County Nutrition Program and see if you were able to reach out to any of them. I haven't heard back from any board members, so I did include my email on the sign-in sheet, so if anybody could email me back and kind of let me know about if you've talked to Sodexo or Greenville County Schools or any of that in regards to our nutrition program. And then lastly, I just want to echo my sentiments about the policy meeting and just providing the redlined changes prior to the first reading at the board. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Bates. Okay, next is Shauna, I don't want to, Mazik? Okay. Just spelled a little differently.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here today as a parent of children in the district, but that also play in youth athletics with teams that are using the facilities at the school. And I know you guys have that up for discussion, whether or not you're going to allow the youth programs to use the facilities and then also the fees. And so I kind of want to touch on that because I have a kid who plays B team at Ashley Ridge and then two boys that play football for the Ashley Ridge Youth Swamp Foxes. I'm also a coach for the basketball program that we just started at Ashley Ridge for the youth program. And basically, I really just want to touch on reminding everybody the importance of youth athletics and what it does for these kids, especially this day and age. It gets them off of TVs, YouTube, video games, keeps kids out of the streets that are high risk, allows them to come in. It teaches them community, leadership, determination. They learn how to win. They learn how to lose. They have good role models from the community, and it really, I think, just builds a big community and brings everybody together. I can speak specifically to our organization. It's like a big family, and we have families that drive from Berkeley County schools to come play over here for the youth organizations that are associated with DD2. And now they are looking at houses to actually move into our district. So it really does bring a draw to our district. It's a very positive influence for the kids, and just being able to support it. The high school coaches support us, basketball, track, football. They're trying to bring wrestling. And having it and using those facilities is key for our programs. But I know also you're going to talk about fees, and I know the programs may have started to pay some fees, and we're just a little concerned on how high those fees might be, because when you charge the programs to use the facilities, that fee then gets sent to the parents in registration fees. And if we have to have a high registration fee, it doesn't allow us to reach those kids in the community that need us the most. And so I really just ask for you guys to be mindful and think of that. Like, I understand if you feel like you need to have a fee, you can't just let just anybody use it. We definitely want to follow the rules and do whatever you set forth, but it is very important for our youth, for our district. And I think it just is a good look. It draws people to our district, and I think in the end, that's really what we want to do. You see, we have an athlete that we honored today. He's recognized in the state. We had Ashley Ridge wrestling team. All of that, if we build from the youth and continue to build up, they're already working with the high school coaches. By the time they get to high school, these kids are already in the program, and it's just going to build our athletic program. It's going to give us a better view through the state and in the city of Charleston and around us. So I thank you for your time, and I just hope you really consider how important this really is to our school district and our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Lene Simmons.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Lene Simmons. I'm here to piggyback off what Ms. Shauna just said. I'm the director for the Youth Swamp Foxes track and field team, which we just started this year. From personal experiences, my kids play for the Swamp Foxes youth basketball and football team. I personally bought a house in Dorchester 2 District so my kids can attend Ashley Ridge High School. As she was saying before, I personally know people who moved from the Cane Bay District here so their kids can also participate. As our first-year basketball team and a first-year track and field team, we're already being recognized statewide. I just started the track and field team this year, and I have more than 10 kids already going to the regional meets next weekend. And that's between South Carolina and Georgia. And based off the statistics, more than half of them will go to the Nationals Junior Olympics. So we're not only representing Dorchester 2, but we're representing Dorchester 2 on a national level. Even with basketball, we went to many meets in Columbia. With football starting now, our first game is in Atlanta. So we're not only representing ourselves in South Carolina, we're putting ourselves on the map. And I work directly with Coach Plain, the high school director, the high school coach for Ashley Ridge, who helped me start the youth program because he himself said he likes it when kids already come up, already have that team mindset, that motivation, that hard work personality when they get to high school, because it's easier. They're already molded to what he needs them to be. So what she was saying about the fees, again, I know personally starting off what it costs to buy shot puts, what it costs to buy batons and hurdles. And again, I have to pass that fee off to the parents. Not only that, we travel, so they already have to think about hotels, gas, which is like $10 a gallon right now, and everything else on top of that. So we don't, like she said, I understand if you have to charge us something, but if we don't have our high schools to lean back on, we really don't have anywhere. There is no other track and field space for my kids to practice at. So we would lose that. So I just, again, please take that into consideration. Think about our babies, because my kids are in sports all year long, and this is what keeps them out the house. This is what keeps them motivated. Rain, snow, cold, hot, they're outside practicing for the next game, whether it's football or basketball or track. So please think about that. Thank y'all.
I just want to ask a question. What's the age limits? What age limits do you
Go to
serve?
So they can be, for football, is up. They can be as long as they turn 13 after August 1st. As long as they turn 13 after August 1st. With track and field, we can go up to high school, but they just can't participate in the youth and the high school programs at the same time.
So what age does it begin? At age 5?
Yes,
5
ma'am.
to 13?
Well, they can do 4. Football starts at 4. Track starts at 5. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And basketball 6. Basketball 6.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on our agenda, board members, in your package, you should have received the minutes of our regular meeting for May 23rd. I need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And next on the agenda is our superintendent's report. The state of the district, Mr. Pye.
It's always interesting. There's so much that has been going on and still is happening as we're winding down this school year. And this is the last week of this school year, and we begin after July 1 a brand new school year. And so we're well underway getting that prepared, as well as trying to still close out a few things, especially our financial pieces and things that's the due date, that everything has to end and the new cycle begins. But I wanted to mention one thing that came up just before the pandemic, and once or twice maybe during that time period, but got lost in the focus that we were all dealing with health issues and closing schools and all the other things that were going on at the same time. And that's the renaming of, or considering renaming the Give Hands School, Give Hands Alternative Program, to change that. We feel that has maybe, over the years, we're hearing from too many people that they're stereotyping this. It's a program, it's not a school. Well, it is recognized by the state of South Carolina as a program, not a school. And that's how they treat it, because it's an extension of the 3 high schools and of the 6, next year, 7 middle schools. It's an extension of children that need extra help, especially with their behavior. This is a good setting for them, and I'm very proud of what we've done over the years. But we want to always maintain the heritage and the community culture of Give Hands, and that name should always remain Give Hands. That's what it's always been. It should stay that way, no matter how you want to maybe alter it with, you want to call it a program or something else. And so the teachers at that school, the staff, suggested that we rename it Give Hands Academy, Achievement Academy. Give Hands Achievement Academy was the name they suggested. And I was fine with that. The school already has a name, and that is Give Hands. It's always been Give Hands Elementary, Give Hands this, Give Hands. Give Hands has always been the name, and so we do not need, according to our policy, we're not changing the name of anything. We're just adding to it and twisting a little bit to give it more of a positive spin that this is a good place for some students to be, and a great place for some teachers to teach, and good things are happening there. We want to make sure we sell that piece on the front end. So I wanted to let you know that is something we're considering, and I'll run it by Dr. Robbins officially on Wednesday. We're meeting Wednesday morning to make sure he has no issues with it, but just felt like I needed to share that with you. It's not any reason other than it came from the staff, and it's not the first time. It's happened down through the years many times. We've just never really got around to it. And so we thought with the ending of this year and the ending of an era, that this might be a good time to start fresh with this new tagline, and let's see how it works. Okay, with that in mind, finishing that today, I attended the library groundbreaking, and I think most of the board members, y'all were present. And it was wonderful to hear county council members, the mayor of North Charleston, and others speak of the wonderful partnership that we have with each other. They do really value that. Now, sometimes we get a hard time from some of them, but I felt today they were so excited that a vision that has been kind of coming and going off and on for the last 10 years, actually we're breaking ground now on a state-of-the-art library. It'll be 10,000, total of 15,000 square feet. One side will be 10,000 square feet, which will be the regular library, county library. And then the other 5,000 will be dedicated space for Fort Dorchester High School, since it's right beside their building. And then the Fort Dorchester High School library that we have now can be converted into as many as 5 to 7 classrooms, which should then be fine for us for a long time in the future, as that population in that area has sort of settled down, but it would give everybody the space that they need. So it was a win-win for all of us. And it's modeled after and it came out of the brainchild of having worked with the pool with North Charleston and the success of that. Of course, the pandemic again put a damper on our plans there, and we've been regrouping to get ready for this fall to finally offer the swimming lessons that were promised, and we've had a lot of logistics to work through. We have lots of students, and staffing of the pool is always an issue, but we have that contract with them, and they've been most wonderful about wanting to honor that. There's been no backing away from doing what they promised they would do, and so we're not backing away either. So again, both of those are models that you don't see in many communities. There's probably a shared library. The only one I know of closest to us is in North Carolina. As far as a pool is concerned, same thing. I think that there might be some shared one in Rock Hill. It's a unique situation there. Outside of that, it's not very common, but it's a way to pool resources. The school cannot afford to have these things individually, and neither can they. Collectively and together, we can make it work for our community. So as I said today, and I want to say again tonight, doing both of those facilities will be adding classroom space. They're community classrooms, because it not only involves the students of our district, but all community members. Our high school students now have a place to go, and teachers to find information in the evening hours and the weekend without having to drive long distance. So that will help them, and as well as any community members that are in that area, whether they're school related or not. And also, during the daytime, the school part will be separated, and the school students will be on one side, and the other side will be for the community. At night, the whole 15,000 is opened up square feet and becomes a mega library that will serve the whole community. So we were very impressed with their presentation tonight. They've got a large task force working on it, and I was impressed with some of the names that they did read. I didn't know all of them, but the ones I did know, I thought that was a great spot for them to be in and to give us the input to make that happen. So wanted to share that with you. Does any board member want to add to that? Okay, that was just a real special event, and I really appreciated the camaraderie I felt. And like I said, we've had some tense moments down through the years of a budget, recently even maybe a little bit. That didn't seem to be play into any of this today. Today was about, we are partners. We can disagree, and we don't always have to agree, but at the end of the day, we're going to do what's right for our students and our community by working together. And I think it's causing it to be a better understanding rather than I want. It's going to be what we need, and we're going to find out our needs, the same need as theirs, and together we can make it happen. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is the special event that occurred at the Performing Arts Center in recognition or celebration of my retirement was over the top. What the most awesome experience of my life. And I have to thank the school board members. It was your brainchild to do this. I had my doubts. It was just a lot of work to plan an event. Now, and you know I was right. It was very difficult. I mean, you had to work really hard. You worked all night long some nights. I know that to be a fact. Okay, little birds tell stories. I know you're trying to not let us know how hard you worked. And all of you contributed in various different ways, but it was under your leadership, Ms. Hughes, that this all happened. I know, and Tanya is responsible for all these pictures you see around here. She innocently called one if I had any baby pictures or something else. It was so innocent. I didn't think anything about what she was going to do with the fool things. Well, she went all out. I think you went out too much, and you put them out here again tonight. I understand.
Yes, sir. We wanted to get one last look because you did so much through the years from the time your mama gave birth to you over there. But we couldn't find some of the pictures. But, if everybody could just see the National Guard picture. I mean, he was a hottie. If you can't.
A lot of things when you're thin and you have hair and you have muscles. 3 things I no longer have.
Great pictures, and Patsy, your sweet wife, helped me. But it was so worth all those months to make you happy, it was worth it, wasn't it, y'all? You deserved it, Mr. Pye.
But it was quite an awesome event. It was just wonderful to see so many people that I had not seen in 30 years. A lot of my teachers that long retired 30 years ago came back from Flowertown. I had dozens of Flowertown teachers and personnel there, and there's not one soul at Flowertown Elementary that I worked with when I was there. So all those people are out there, and they came that night in full force. A lot of our custodial staff members, a lot of our support staff, guidance counselors, secretaries, maintenance. It was just people from all walks of our district, and it spoke well. That it was a great example, a great model of Dorchester, Team Dorchester, the spirit that we have. And I was just taken back by all the keys. I'm going to have to get a mighty big keychain. I got a key to North Charleston, and a key. I got a key. Who did I not get a key from? Because I want y'all to go lobby. I want a set of keys to everything. But they got to really work now. They can't just look good. They're supposed to work. But I, again, can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And you'll be getting a written thank you note from me, each of you. And as I'm trying to express myself in a more private way with you there, but it's not going on deaf ears. I've just been blown away. It was hard to deal with at that time. Still hard. But I also want to take time to share with the people watching and those in the audience here. I am excited for Dorchester, too, in its future. We are a top school district. If you read the interview that recently that was done with Dr. Robbins, he alluded to that. He said, listen, this is some top district. And he's in awe of this district. And he's told me many times, I see what you're saying. The people that I've met and the few minutes I've had with them, I sense something totally different here. The passion, the work ethic, people wanting to do the right thing for kids. I see it. It's not just talk. And I am so glad I'm a part of it. And I want to grow and I want to learn and make that happen. Well, the district should never stop growing. We've faced many challenges, and we've had some things that maybe would have set us back had we not been united and together. But we learn from those things. Would we do some of the things we did before? Probably not, especially if it was the first time we did it. We learned from it. We did the best we could, and we talked an awful lot to try to figure out all the ways we could do it, and took a lot of input, and oftentimes that was in conflict with other sources that we're getting stuff with, but we tried to listen, we tried to make it work. But it all works because we have the right team in place here. This year, we not only have a new superintendent, we have a new deputy superintendent, we'll have another assistant superintendent. We've got some other key people in the district office that have been moved up and moved around. So it's going to be a new team. But it's new coaches. It's new coaches. The team is still here. Team Dorchester is very much intact. So I ask each of you to give it your very best, 100%. Dr. Robbins has assured me that he plans to do 100% and then some. And I told him I'll be watching him, and I'm going to be on his case if he doesn't follow through. So we laughed at there. But I think he's a good guy, and I think he has good intentions. And I'm excited for that enthusiasm coming here to bringing some outside ideas into here and let us look at that and shake that around and see how that mixes into what we're already doing to make it even better. So I'm just proud of our team. I'm proud of what you've done for me and for Rochester District 2 and our children. And it's bittersweet that I say goodbye, but it's time. It is time. It's not something I've looked forward to. It's something I've dreaded. And I'm probably going to dread everything I said this time next week. But I have a good frame of mind that this needs to happen. It's for the right reasons, and it's God-inspired, and I feel comfortable that this decision's fine. The only person upset with this decision is my wife, because she doesn't want her space involved. She says she's not putting up with things just laying around. Everything has a place, and I need to learn how to do that, and she's tired of telling me after 53 years. So that's going to be an issue. She's going to still want to run the show, and she wants to run me, and that's going to probably be a conflict of interest. But we're going to make it work the best we can. But But if I can keep her happy, then this will work out really well. And we just got back from a long trip to Portugal, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I think travel's in the cards for me, lots of travel. I want to learn different cultures and meet different people from around the world and just see what's going on everywhere. And as usual, come back to the United States, come back to Charleston, come back to Somerville, come back to South Carolina, and realize no place I can visit could be better. So thank you.
Well, I think this is the perfect lead-in for us to kind of share a little bit of our thoughts as well. But I want you to know before we go too much further into this that, yes, at the time of your retirement and at the time of your party, I was the chairman, but I cannot take all the credit for that or the majority of the credit, because it took a huge team to put that together. And we all worked very, very hard to make that happen. And we were very happy with the outcome, and we were very happy that you were pleased with it, because that was our ultimate goal. We wanted to make you happy. We wanted to give you a send-off that you deserved, and that was even better than you deserved, honestly. But we wanted to make sure it was over the top, as you put it, and we did everything to make it that way. So, but don't think that just because we've done that and we're doing this tonight that you won't be coming back to Dorchester too, because there are a few more events that we would like to have your presence at, and you will be getting invitations from us. So just know that you'll be coming back.
Just say come.
So just don't think you're getting taken completely off the map already. So, but I want to give all the board members a little bit of time to just, if they would like to reflect a little bit on with Mr. Pye and his time here and some of the experience that you personally had with him, so that we have this time. And I didn't know quite where I was going to put it in the agenda, but since he got started with it, I think this is probably the place that we need to do that. So do we want to just go down the line?
I gave my reflections at the beginning, but I'll just echo those again. We appreciate it, all you've done, and all that you've done for our district and for the children. And that's what it was all about, was the kids. So have a good retirement.
Mr. Guthrie?
Yeah, it's just been an honor to serve with you, and just the unmatched dedication that you've shown to this district. It's been inspiration just to be a part of it, and I just want to say thank you for all your service.
Yeah.
Ms. Robinson?
Gosh, I already did at your party, but I watched you for 40 years do 1,000 wonderful things that you didn't even know people were watching you for. But I watched you as a young mother, a middle-aged mother, and an older mother, and you're still older than me, but I still watched you during those decades. I watched you as a PTA volunteer, as a PTA leader, and watched how you performed as a PTA leader in the state and the district, and how you brought PTA to Somerville. I watched you when I was privileged to work in the Public Information Department for 10 years, and I saw you in a different aspect as a true leader with education and curriculum. And then, as I said before, when I was elected to be on the school board, I came to you and asked you, will you help me be your boss? And you smiled and you said, sit down here. And you spent about an hour with me, and I needed that. And you have been a wonderful superintendent, and I think you can walk away knowing you're always invited. You don't even need an invitation. You walk in any school and you will be pleasantly received, and know that you have made a difference in thousands and thousands of lives. And I thank you for personally getting to know someone that was able to do that.
Mr. Mitchell?
I met Mr. Pye about 10 years ago at Bethany United Methodist Church when there was a meeting about this school improvement referendum, this bond referendum. Sat beside him. I'd heard a lot about him. I had little kids in school, but I didn't really know Joe Pye. like I said, I read about him. I was in awe of this man, and I was like, oh my gosh. He said, can you help us? And what was I to say? But of course, Mr. Pye was asking me for help, and I was in awe. And I've been in awe of him for the last 10 years that I've worked beside him, or whether it was on the referendum committee, the educational foundation, or as I've served the last 8 years on this board. Mr. Pye is one of a kind. We've all said it. Everybody knows it, but we just got to say it again. Thank you, Mr. Pye.
Thank you.
Ms. Wimberly?
Yes, I completely agree. Thank you so much, Mr. Pye, for all your many, many years of service. And I think you said it yourself best just then when you said you have built a phenomenal team in this district, and I consider myself very fortunate to have played a small part in it, and it's a blessing for me, for my entire family. And I loved what you said about, yes, it's new coaches, but we have a strong foundation thanks to you. And I have no doubt that because of that and because of the legacy that you've left, we are going to be stronger than ever. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Farnsworth?
I'm sad on one hand, but on the other hand, I don't know if you guys have been close to Mr. Pye for a long time in the past few weeks, besides when you've been out of town. If you can see in his eyes, he's a little bit different. And on the other side, I'm excited for him because I think he's finally realized that you have come to the point where you have earned every single moment of your retirement and a fulfilled career and what a phenomenal career and I'm not going to say life because you still have a long time, but what you've done so far in life is unbelievable. And so I'm excited. You know, I think about the leaders that I've served with, the military, going in the military very young. I've seen the very, very, very worst leadership in our country, and I have seen the very, very, very best leadership in our country. And I will tell you, hands down, bar none, Mr. Pye is the very, very, very best of our leadership. But I'm actually going to be a little bit different because one thing that with Mr. Pye, we are all his boss. But more than anything, what I have taken away, what I have learned from Mr. Pye over the years far outweighs anything of ever being your boss. So I would turn it over to you because I am curious to know, as you leave Dorchester District 2 and move on into your future endeavors, what would you leave with our students? What would you leave with our educators? Just to say, this is how to, looking at what you've done and how successful you've been, what's the secret sauce?
Be fair, be kind, reach for the stars, never give up.
Thank you, Mr. Pye.
Well, I mean, how do I top any of those things? First of all, I have to say I've got to commend the board because there wasn't one tear shed. And I mean, we sit here and we have these things, and all of us have been really sad for this day to come, and we've all had this conversation that we didn't want to be here when this day came. We didn't want to be the people sitting at this desk when this day came. But none of us wanted to be here when Mr. Pye was gone. Because we felt that, you know, once you've had the best, it's hard. Where do you go? Where do you go from there? And Mr. Pye has done a great job. He has touched the lives of so many people, so many kids, and adults alike. I mean, every one of us up here on this board, he's touched our lives in our own special way, and mine included. And we go back a long time, and I've learned so much, Mr. Pye. I think I'm sitting in this chairman position tonight because of what you've taught me and where you've brought me. So I appreciate you for everything that you've done for our community, and I appreciate you for everything that you've done for me. So thank you very much. Well-deserved retirement. Go forth, enjoy it, and go fishing. Where's that fishing picture? Go fishing and enjoy it. You deserve it. So thank you very much for
Thank
everything.
y'all also very much. I appreciate you all.
Okay, we've got to get back to serious stuff now. Okay, we're going to go on to our, where am I at? Personnel report. Board members, in your packets, you should have received the personnel reports for the resignations and the recommendations for the 21-22 school year and the recommendations for the 22-23 school year. Does anyone have a problem with doing that in open session? No. Okay, I need a motion to approve those, please.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Wimberly. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And next on the agenda is our financial report. Ms. Meunier.
Good evening, Chairwoman Hughes, board members, and Mr. Pye. As I was thinking that this might be the last time, I think it's the last time I'll say, and Mr. Pye, when I'm giving my finance report. And I just wanted to say from the finance team, thank you for your eagle eye over these finances for all these years that I've been here. I have to use my add machine, my calculator, and Mr. Pye can sit over there with his napkin math, and he's crunching numbers, and we come up with the same answers, and he's so much faster than I am. And I just appreciate that, and thank you for watching over these finances so diligently. So board members, in your packet this month, I wanted to make a shout out for my team and my finance department and the school financial secretaries and department secretaries. We are now going to be able to present to you a more up-to-date finance report. So we are presenting the May 31st reports. So every month now we'll be presenting the month right prior to the month that we're in. So for May 31st of 2022, you can see your asset section as compared to May of 2021. Cash and cash equivalents and our investments, they're just in a little bit different. Some are in LGIP, some are in our cash account, very comparable to last year. And our due from other funds is mainly from grant funds that we have to draw down that are in another cash account. So our assets are at $61 million at the end of May of 2022. Our liabilities in the next section are $8.5 million, which is very close to where we were last year as far as relative to the size of our budget for this year is a little higher than last year, which brings us down to our fund balance from the beginning of the year, which is a little higher from last year because we had the savings in last year. We keep talking about that. And then our net change in fund balance to bring us to our total liabilities and fund balance equaling $61 million, which is the same as our assets. On the next page is our schedule of revenues, expenditures, and changes in those fund balances. And wanted to point out that these are year-to-date figures, July 1 through May 31 of 2022. So our first column is our budget that we passed at the very beginning of the year, and the next column is our actual that we received through May. I was going to point out that for our local sources with taxes, we did receive another $4 million from the county in June, so we still have $3 million remaining. We'll see if that they pay us one more payment in July that will accrue back to June. Along with some of our other state sources, they will receive a July payment that will accrue back to June. So as Mr. Pye was stating, that we will be closing out our books, and so over the next month, 2 months, we'll be working on that as we're working with our auditors as well. So our total revenues to the end of May were at $199.7 million. And for our expenditures, we were at $188.6 million, which shows up as our fund balance and our carryover that we just talked about on the previous page. So the next form, the next report is our food service balance sheet through the end of May. Again, I'll point out maybe next year we'll change the wording up a little bit instead of saying due to general fund, because really we're in a positive state now where the general fund is actually holding money for the food service fund since we're centralized accounting. So the food service fund is much better shape than it has been in many, many years. And I'll show you why as reflected in the revenue and expenditure statement on the next page. So for this current year, we had our meals served were significantly increased over last year. We had much more participation and more meals served. So our total revenues through the end of May was $11.7 million, whereas last year was only 5.2. So our team at Sodexo, I think Michelle is here. Thank you, Michelle, for working so hard to worked so hard for our students for this year. So while our revenues were up and our meals served were up, it just makes sense that our purchase services, what we pay to Sodexo for the food and for the labor, is higher. But if you notice that our net change is still $1.8 million, we're to the good. We had $900,000 savings from the prior year, so we're sitting very nicely at 2.8. This summer, we're going to work with Michelle and her team to work on the equipment that we can update, upgrade. Some of it's outdated, so we'll be utilizing some of those additional funds for the equipment. The next report in your packet was the school activity fund balances, and we wanted to pull these figures as of the most recent that we could. So we did this last week. We pulled the balances as of last week. So again, I wanted to notate, Ms. Hughes and I were talking about this, and may have been a little confusion before, but this is our year-to-date balances. So our beginning balance is really what was at the beginning of the year, receipts and expenditures for the year. So, and encumbrances, leaving our ending balance as of, we made this as of June 22nd. So this is really, really close. Again, we'll be accruing some expenditures that are paid in July back to June. So most all of our schools are well within their, they've at least spent more than what their beginning balance was and what their receipts that were collected for this current year. So I didn't know if there are any questions on any of those. Mm-hmm. One other report that's in your board packet, this is a requirement from the State Department of Education. This is our funding flexibility report. The state provides us monies in our state funds. So these are 3 of the funds that are listed here that we flex over to the general fund. So the first one, for example, is our student at risk of failure. So we pay for Read 180 teachers out of the general fund. So where we have the largest amount of the expenditures in the general fund for those teachers, and this helps to supplement those teachers. We don't receive the full amount to pay for all of the teachers, and this is to help supplement that. Same for the nurses. We get money from the state for nurses where we account for those in the general fund, and also the ADEPT is for the PD for the new teachers. So this is a report that goes on our website, and it does require certification from the board, which would require a vote, please. If you have any more questions first before you vote. Okay.
I just have a little quick question, and it's not exactly about this, but, and I don't know if you know, because I know a lot of things happen today in Columbia, and tomorrow especially, but have you heard if they cut the dual program finances? Have you heard if that was the case for our dual program? I know they were talking about that.
I'm not sure what dual program means. I'm sorry.
So that they could get an associate degree there while they were taking classes in high school, the dual credits.
The early college.
It's called dual credits.
I'm looking over at my high school executive director
do you
friend.
know if they cut that or if that's...
From what we understand, they have not. That is
good.
I don't believe we get any funds. We pretty much pay for that out of our own general account. If I'm not mistaken. We had a conversation about that.
For waiting for dual credits? Is that what we're...
No, this was in terms of...
an actual early college.
So that's just us. It's good to know. So if it gets, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, anybody have any other questions about this funding flexibility report that Ms. Munier just presented?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the 2021-2022 funding flexibility report as presented.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Mr. Mitchum. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, next up is our facilities and construction report. Mr. Souls.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Pye. It's been a busy time out at East Edisto Middle School the past few weeks. It's just been a flurry of activity, just as it has been for the past 14 months. There's an old saying, all we lack is finishing. And that's about where we are. We had an above ceiling during construction inspection last Friday with OSF, and that went very well. The few minor things we found, they were corrected on the spot, and we've got another above ceiling inspection on July 7th, next Thursday. And we're still scheduled for our final inspection on the 26th and 27th, which is amazing considering all of the supply chain issues we've come against and we've worked through with engineers, the contractor. OSF has been involved with us every step of the way to help us get through those hardships, and we're still good to go for August 8th completion date. I didn't include a schedule because it's a very narrow window. We're down to just a few weeks away. We're almost 5 weeks to completion. So that's how tight that is. And so there was really nothing to show you on the scheduling. You don't need to know about they're installing cover plates on receptacles and light bulbs. And that's about where we are. The biggest thing going on out there right now is ceiling tile being put in, flooring being put down. The last few final touches, we'll be waxing floors in just a few weeks, and we'll have Mr. Pye back to do a ribbon cutting for us, and we'll call that good.
Have you cut that ribbon?
The DO annex right behind us, OSF is very, very overwhelmed right now, as they are this time of year every year. They're short-staffed. They're inspecting everything all over the state, so they really don't have time for design reviews. And the only thing they are reviewing right now are ESSER-funded projects, and we have 2 of those coming up that were approved last month. And I've already started work with a mechanical engineer to get those HVAC systems replaced at Knightsville and Span. We've got all the we've got the design documents finished up. We're working on construction documents ahead of time, just so we'll have those ready as soon as we get an OSF approval on the design. We can hit the ground running. So that's our hopes and dreams on that. And that is about all I had, unless you had any questions for me.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on this report? Okay, also in your package, you should have received the facility walkthrough projects. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at those? Anybody have any questions or concerns on any of those? Those are ones that actually have the breakdown of the projects that are being funded as our construction projects over the summer.
Yes, ma'am. We're putting up fences, we're putting down awnings, all that stuff. It's happening right now. I mean, we've got there's a plethora of activity going on throughout the district right now with a lot of different. Just about every school is we've got something going on everywhere. So it's a little kind of tough to keep up with, but it requires long days and long weeks, but
a little bit more than a typical summer. We usually have a busy summer, but this is a little exceptional.
We're trying to catch up from summers past when we haven't had it. Last year we didn't really have much of a summer. We spent that all on academics, and we had a very narrow window to do what we were able to do last year. But this year we're trying to wrap 2 years worth of work into 8 short weeks, and it's fun.
Okay, any questions on any of that? Nope. Thank you very much, Mr. Souls, and please thank your team, because we know what they're going through right now. I mean, after looking at this list and knowing what else we have going on, we understand, we get what they're going through, so we really appreciate what they're doing and all their efforts are putting towards that, so thank you.
Ma'am. I'll let them know. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, under new business, is policies for first reading, and I am going to defer that to our policy committee, which would be Mr. Farnsworth, who is the chair, and Ashley Wimberly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Policies for first reading, everybody can see in the agenda there. So we'll just kind of go through these. I'm going to block some of them together, but the first two to really talk about, so policy ADD and then KI R, the rule for KI. Those two policies dealt specifically with the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, coming out of that. Those policies, of course, don't make a lot of sense on our books right now. So we are asking for those two policies to be deleted, or I should say that ADD is the policy to be deleted, and then KI-R to be removed. And I'll just kind of, like I said, I'll go through these in order, but please stop me if anybody has any questions. Moving on to policy and accompanying rule GB, Golf Boy, that deals with automated external defibrillators, AEDs in our schools. For this section, really just simplifying all of those pieces, nothing earth-shattering. Those policies hadn't been looked at in a good 15 or 20 years, and so really just kind of solidifying our AED policies and procedures in the school. So that's GB. Moving on to the KDB block. So that is FOIA, Public's Right to Know and Freedom of Information Act. Again, nothing earth-shattering in there, just solidifying and updating based on state legislation and enacted laws to update that information and be very clear and concise for our FOIA pieces as a district. So that's KDB and the accompanying rules. Moving on, and this one, this block was, of course, discussed a little bit earlier in public comments on our agenda item. So policies in the rule KF, Kilo F, dealing with community use of school facilities. Again, you know, these were policies we hadn't looked at in 15 or 20 years. So really just updating those policies. There were no major changes to those policies. You know, one thing I know we had talked about or that came up earlier was dealing with fees. We actually simplified that. If you look at the old policy, the schedule of fees that's in there was pretty horrendous, for lack of better words. And it was impossible to figure out fees, that sort of stuff. So we've actually simplified that a good bit. And it is still very, very, very inexpensive to rent or use or for the use of our facilities. So we're maintaining that. We're very cognizant. You know, these are our buildings are community buildings. They're public use buildings. So we are very cognizant not to put any overarching fees on the use of those buildings. So none of that is in the changes or anything we're looking to do tonight. So again, that was the KF block. Updates, tightening up our policies, just going through them one at a time. So there you go. Coming out of committee, and happy to answer any questions on those.
Okay, coming out of committee, we need no second on that. So any discussion on that? Okay, I have one question, and I'm just asking because I know that when all of this stuff came about with COVID and that kind of thing, and we were talking about the face coverings and the visitors rule that we put in place for that, and we went in and we put guidelines on that. We said that at that time that we were going to adjust that policy so that we could keep that policy there in case we had something come back up, that we wouldn't have to wait for first, second, and third reading to be able to implement something if we had a problem such as COVID that came back up again. And I guess I wasn't at the last policy committee meeting when these were discussed, so that's why I'm asking the question about that. I guess I just want to get some input on that as to what the discussion was?
I think, so these specifically, these were very specific to COVID-19 and dealing with face coverings. Mm-hmm. I understand your point, you know, if this were to come up in the future. I do think if you look at our other policies, I think in cases of quote-unquote emergencies or urgent use, it would be relegated to the superintendent to come up with something if we had to have something, say, that day. But again, these were very specific to COVID. these haven't been enforced for a number of months in the district. So I just
Right.
don't know that there's a reason that we would keep anything like that on the books. That was a discussion from the committee.
Okay. I think if we leave it in there, that it could cause a lot of problems. I think we would have a mutiny if we told anybody to put a mask on again. But I agree with leaving it off.
Well, I mean, I'm not
don't think we
saying
need to
one way or
leave it
the
in
other.
there.
What I'm saying is
I know.
we had a situation when we first adopted these policies. We were jumping through hoops to try to make these things happen so that we could enforce what the government was telling us we had to do, and we couldn't do it until we were able to enforce these things. And so we said that we were going to just leave this policy or leave a policy similar to this, maybe not this particular one, out there so that if something like that did come up again, we had a guideline that whatever needed to happen could happen. We didn't have to wait till first, second, and third reading to be able to enforce what we were being told that we had to do. So that's the only reason why I'm asking. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying, Ms. Crosby, that this needs to go into effect now. I'm not saying that. And I think if you read through this, it says it gives you specific things that has to happen before these things go into effect. And I think that's the reason why it was written that way. And that's the reason why it's not in effect right now, is because these things are not occurring. So it's just a protection thing. And, so, I mean.
I agree, but, if it came down to that big epidemic again, CDC or those people are going to say, put your mask on. So we would have followed their mandate, or the governor,
But
whatever.
we can't enforce it if we don't have a policy on how to enforce it, and that's why this policy was put into place.
Right, but I'm just saying, I don't see the necessity for it. That's my opinion, yeah.
Okay, I would like to ask that those two policies be pulled until we can just have more conversation to make sure that we are protected. And again, I'm not saying these policies need to be in effect. I'm just saying that for our protection, which was the reason why it was put in there, that we need to make sure that we have in our other policies that states that our superintendent has the authority to enforce that mask or to enforce the use of whatever the government sends down that we have to do. We need to make sure that gets put in that policy before we totally delete something like this. I don't want us to be in a situation where we're being told that we have to do something and we can't enforce it or we can't reinforce it. Because we can't put our principals, our administration, we can't put them in that type of a situation by telling them you've got to do something if we don't have a policy in place that says this is what has to be done, because they have no leg to stand on then. And that was the reason why these policies were put into place.
Well, I feel like if there's a question with a board member, maybe we could just pull it and look it over. And when we meet again, we can have that discussion so we all are on the same page, especially if there's a doubt or any question.
Yeah, I mean, and just to play devil's advocate, I will tell you I'm a proponent of taking these two out of policy sooner than later, because I think the issue you run into, if this, in theory right now, this policy's in place, so why, I mean, we're not enforcing it, so why have it?
But if some of this criteria comes up again and we have a dangerous situation per the government, then we have a policy in place that gives us the right to take action. If we don't have it, then we have no policy in place.
1,000%.
To be able to take action.
1,000%, but I think we can do both those. I think we can still take these out of policy. We can delete these and then give it back to the policy committee to make sure that we've got what you're talking about in place. I think to some degree, and again, of course, I don't have every single word of our policies in front of us. To some extent, I think we have that in place right now.
And that's all I'm asking, is that we look at it and we just make sure that we do before we delete and before we get rid of the.
But I think these specifically, though, because they deal so specifically with COVID, again, I mean, we agree that the pandemic has moved on, and I just don't know that there's a reason to keep these two specific policies in place. But to your point, 1,000%, as a policy committee, we will absolutely ensure that our policy is solid to say, if something like this happens, we're ready. But it's not talking about face coverings. It's general, how do we handle this? Absolutely.
Okay. I'm just one person, so it doesn't, I mean.
So, do you want to hold off on that until everybody has a chance to relook at?
He's saying to go ahead and delete them because this has to do specifically with COVID. So he's saying to delete them, but they will look into the policies and to make sure that there's coverage for any event that comes down that's a mandate from the state or from the federal government that we have to do, that we're covered in that.
Okay,
and that's what I mainly want to make sure. I want to make sure that we don't put our administrators in a bad light where they're trying to enforce something that we have no authority policy-wise to enforce.
Ashley wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, and I just don't know. I mean, I looked at Christie. I think the state, the legislators could convene tomorrow and say, hey, every single kid has to wear a hazmat suit in school.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think they're going to? No. But how do we handle something like that?
Good evening, board members. I do want to clarify, if there were to be a mandate from our legislators, from DHEC, in terms of a mandate or a regulation that we're required to follow, it is part of our policy, and it is part of the board's duty to the district that those would be implemented immediately. You don't have to have a board policy to reflect that we will follow state and federal law. So if that were to come down from our legislation, we would have to follow that regardless of board policy. In fact, a good number of districts didn't actually put a board policy in place regarding face masks even when they were required. They simply had their superintendent issue that requirement and follow that state statute. So I don't know that there necessarily has to be a board policy in place for us to do that in the future. I think it's prudent for us to keep our policies up to date. And so having a board policy out there that we know is not applicable and that we are not adhering to, I think would not necessarily be best practice. But certainly the district would be poised to implement any mandate that comes down from our legislation, from our legislators, or anything that is required as a regulation and a guideline.
Okay. Do you not agree, though, that when we did have that issue, when that did occur, that we had some administrators that were very hesitant about how they were going to force this issue because there was no policy in place that said that, and that was the purpose for these policies?
We did, but I believe that when we were having those concerns, it was because those were not regulations from DHEC or mandates that had to be followed. They were recommendations based on the spread of our local community. And that's why we chose to do the board policy route.
Okay. Okay.
You feel okay about it?
Yep, well, we're okay. Yeah, we can go for it. Everybody's good. Majority. Okay?
All good.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions or comments about any of the policies? Okay. So I have my motion and my second, and all in favor to accept these policies? 7-0. Okay, next on our agenda, we have public comments, and I have no public comments. So I need a motion, board members, to go into executive session for personnel matter regarding new hires.
Motion for executive session.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Farnsworth. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. And we will be returning after executive session for any action required. Okay, I need a motion to go back into open session.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Crosby. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, do I have any motions on the floor?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to accept the hiring recommendations as presented in executive session.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the hiring recommendations as presented in executive session by Mr. Farnsworth. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, anything else?
Madam Chair, I make a motion. We have 2 new positions to add to our organizational chart. The first of those positions would be a district athletic director. The district athletic director would report to our secondary director of schools. And then the second position we are looking at is our military liaison director. That person would have a reporting line to the superintendent as well as all other stakeholders within the district.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any discussion?
Just quickly, I would say both of those positions, those are things we've talked about for a long time, especially the district athletic director. I think that's going to move us to the next level, especially for athletics, a district of our size. We absolutely have to have that coordinated effort when it comes to athletics with the aquatic center, all the teams, you name it. So I think the athletic director is fantastic. And then on the military side, to be able to bolster the relationship, especially with the Charleston Air Force Base, which now encompasses the Navy base, the Coast Guard. There's a lot to the military community here in Charleston. And so to be able to provide that position, as well as potentially with the opportunities to fund that position through grants and through other opportunities, for us really not to have to pay for that position is a pretty unbelievable thing. So those 2 I'm fairly excited about. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? 7-0. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, second by Mr. Mitchum. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you all very much and have a great evening.